Alright friends, so today I'm going to be drawing with and comparing two very different brands of colored pencils. The much cheaper Crayola colored pencils and the very expensive Caran luminous pencils, to see if there's any significant difference between them when used to draw. The luminous pencils from Caran are widely considered as some of the most expensive colored pencil brands in the world. This is their 40 count set, and honestly their packaging is very beautiful. The pencils themselves feel very premium to hold. They have a nice wooden aesthetic which feel comfortable in the hand, and the colors appear quite vibrant. Like I said, this is the 40 count set. Their biggest set I think is the 100 count. The Crayola pencils, on the other hand, are some of the least expensive pencils you can buy. In fact, I got this entire set for less than $5 basically. Now obviously they don't look and feel as premium as the Caran pencils given their price point. They also do not have the build quality of the Caran pencils, but there's really nothing to complain about. They look just fine and they actually appear quite vibrant as well. Before we begin, I wanted to have a feel of these two different brands, so I created a color swatch for both pencils so we can have an idea of what it feels like to draw with them. Let's start with the Caran pencils. Now these are wax-based pencils. That means they have a wax core and therefore layer very smoothly, much like the Prismacolor pencils, and in fact better than the Prismacolor pencils, as these are a little smoother and creamier. And this was very obvious during the layering process, one color almost seamlessly blending into the next. I tried to create some sort of a gradient where I moved from dark to light, and these pencils were actually up to the task. The colors also appear extremely vibrant. Also, I used very little pressure to layer these pencils as they are really soft due to their wax binding. Now the disadvantage here is that wax-based pencils, because of their soft nature, are a little difficult to use when drawing sharp details, and you find that you have to sharpen the pencils very frequently. Now I found out that the Crayola pencils are also wax based, and this was quite surprising to me because I've always thought of them as being oil based due to the hard nature of their lead. A further research however showed that even though both pencil brands are wax based, the quality of the wax in both pencil brands are significantly different. The Crayola uses more filler and less pigment, and that explains why they have such hard leads. But this could often be an advantage when drawing details, as these pencils can hold their sharp points much longer than the Caran pencils. So here's the completed swatch for both pencil brands, and in my opinion they both look great. The Caran however looks a little more vibrant than the Crayola pencils. Now we are going to be using these pencils side by side to draw a portrait of a beautiful young lady. I've drawn a straight line through the middle. On the left side of her face we'll be using the Caran pencils, and on the right side we'll be using the Crayola pencils. So I wanted to see if I can make this look like one seamless drawing done with just one colored pencil brand. I've started with the left side, and like I always do with my portrait drawings, I started with her eyes. Now this section contains a lot of grays, blues and some amount of black. We'll talk more about the black colored pencils of these two brands later in the video. Now the paper I'm using is the 500 vellum series from Strathmore. Here I've moved on to the skin and I'm applying the principles of layering, starting light and then gradually building my layers to the darker colors. The nature of these pencils, like I said earlier, makes layering quite easy, as I do not have to apply too much pressure to get the pigment down. However, I noticed that the drawing was looking quite grainy, as I could not really get into the tooth of the paper because of how hard it is to keep these pencils sharp for a long time. The paper I used also has a moderately rough texture, so that also played a significant role in that respect. However, upon blending like you can see me do here, everything seemed to come together, but I had to apply a bit of pressure here to ensure a seamless transition between the layers. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Your paper choice is very important when it comes to colored pencil art. You've probably heard me say it time and time again, but that's because of how relevant it is. I like to use moderately rough textured papers because I find it makes my drawings appear a little more vibrant compared to the smoother ones, but that's just my personal preference. I still use smooth papers every now and then. I've moved on to the rest of her face, still on the left side of course, and applying the same principles, layering lightly and gradually building up the layers before blending. I used a lot of browns, pinks and a little amount of black here. I used the very dark browns and black to block out areas like the nostril. I also used the mid-tone browns to mark out the contours of the skin to help create expressions like the subtle smile she has. Now if you are new here, don't forget to subscribe and like to see more of such videos. I've got a lot of videos here that will help you significantly improve your colored pencil art. We've gotten to the hair now, and I must say I was a bit skeptical about how this was going to turn out. Now I've done hair so many times, but for some reason the different shades and curls in her hair made this a bit more challenging. Like I always do with my hair drawings, I started off by marking out the darkest areas before moving on to the lighter areas. Drawing the hair took a lot of time as I had to build up several layers of browns and black, all while paying close attention to details like the curls in the hair. But like I always say, colored pencil art requires some level of patience, and in the end I think it turned out quite well. So I'm done using the Caran dache pencils, and this is the final drawing. Now we'll be moving on to the Crayola pencils, but before we do, I've put together a resource for people who want to learn realistic portrait drawings with colored pencils, where I go through the very basics and teach you from start to finish how to draw a realistic portrait using a systematic and easy to understand approach. It contains practice exercises, videos and more, so if it's something you're interested in, please check out the first link in the description below. Now let's complete the other half of the drawing using the Crayola pencils. One thing I noticed immediately is that I had to press a little harder to get my values right. Like I said, even though these are also wax-based pencils, they appear to have more things in common with oil-based pencils, which are not as smooth and creamy as professional wax-based pencils. However, I was actually surprised at how great the colors were looking. In a few layers, I was already matching the color on the left side of the face. I was also able to get into the tooth of the paper a little more easily as these pencils held their sharp point quite well. Now, blending was a bit of a challenge though. I had to apply a lot of pressure in order to get the colors to look right, and yeah, they don't blend as effortlessly as the Caran dache pencils. The pink colored pencil was also a bit challenging to work with as it had more of a bluish tone, so I had to use different colors in order to get the right shade of pink I wanted. However, it looked absolutely great when done right. I really like the brown colored pencils in this set. For some reason, they just work very well. The white colored pencil though, I must say, is almost useless. Honestly, I could not create details with them and I could not use them to blend. I had to use some light browns to do most of the blending. The black colored pencil looked more like a dark grey in comparison to the Caran dache black, which is very dark. And like I did on the left side, I had to do several sessions of layering in order to get the hair right. At this point, I wasn't done yet, but I'm sure you can already tell the hair is looking a little more vibrant on the left than it is on the right. To try and make up for this, I did more layering with the Crayola pencils while drawing the hair than I did with the Caran dache pencils. And even though it was challenging, I must say it was a lot of fun as well. This is the final drawing, and I want you to tell me what you think in the comment section. Now, I don't think it's easy to tell that this was done with two separate brands of pencils. You would have to look very closely to spot any difference, and if you did, the main thing you would pick up is that the colors are a little more vibrant on the left than they are on the right, and the blending also looks slightly smoother on the left, but you would have to look really close in order to take notice of these differences. So yes, indeed, you can use cheaper colored pencils to attain realistic looking drawings. It will just require a little more effort. The most important thing is to practice more in order to build up your skill of layering and blending, and for that I have the perfect guide for you, totally free. It's called The Basics of Realistic Colored Pencil Art, where I go through all the basic materials and techniques you need in order to make realistic drawings with colored pencils. The link will be in the description. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out this other comparison video where I use pencils even cheaper than the Crayola pencils. See you in the next one.